Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Metal Hellsinger on Rocket Rapid Commentaries. In this episode, we're going into Incaustis. After we actually pick out what we're doing for our loadout. So, Street Guardian 2 and Ghost Rounds. To be perfectly honest, I don't really like Ghost Rounds for any of the weapons aside from the crossbow, because it's like the only weapon that actually needs additional ammo. So yeah, but we are actually gonna get to show off. Oh yeah, this is the track that I absolutely love. I love this track.
So it was back to the old drawing board for the judge.
We are gonna actually show off a new weapon here, because this is the level where you actually get this weapon. I believe this weapon is called Malphas, and it is the Twin Crowbills.
I see, because it's crow shaped. It's got the little beak and wings. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Stabbing with beaks from hell.
Well, we're not really stabbing with the beaks part of it. The beaks part of it is more here specifically as a thematic overture for its ultimate ability. Yeah, I absolutely love this track. This track is one that I've actually loaded up on YouTube on its own quite a number of times recently.
Trying to put my finger on it. I mean, definitely like a lot neater. Like, this sounds like something you would hear on the radio, honestly.
Well, that's because Troy VM is always trying to do that specifically. Like, they make very heavy metal tunes, but alongside them being very heavy metal tracks, they also have just enough pop sheen specifically to have a more generalized sound to them. Like this guitar riff here specifically is generic enough to where your average pop listener would be able to get behind it.
Like, this sounds to me like Five Finger Death Punch, a touch of the Human Abstract, combined with just some softer metal. Yeah. Great, easy listening, and of course some thundering double bass drums.
Alright, this is Malphas' ultimate, the Swarm of Crows. What this does is that for a relatively small area around the unknown, it creates a damaging field that will continuously damage and stagger enemies that are caught within it. And it's actually extremely useful for keeping your streak up. It doesn't do all that much damage, but it will set up enemies for melee kills very nicely.
And I imagine because it deals continuous damage to enemies that are nearest you, enemies that are behind you, for example.
Yes, enemies that are behind you will also take damage from it.
You're also going to have I imagine you're going to have an easier time avoiding the damage that will cause you to have a ruined multiplier.
Not really, to be perfectly honest. It doesn't give you any actual protection. Just, it gives you a limited amount of crowd control.
Working some darker magic.
We'll bring them closer to a stagger state.
And here is another new enemy for us, the Prophets.
The Prophets of Doom.
Well, the Prophets of Hell, actually. The Prophets of Hell are more or less puppeteer-style enemies that will summon. I love this track so goddamn much. All right, the Prophets will summon puppets specifically that, although have the ability to hurt you, won't actually impact your score or your multiplier while you're attempting to take them down. So whenever a prophet is around, it is highly recommended that you focus them down before the puppets actually explode in your face, because that is what they do. They are kamikaze puppets.
So you're saying that it is profitable to take down the prophets as early as possible, so they'll stop spawning exploding, screaming zombies at you.
Was the pun really necessary, Mr. Cloud?
Yes.
Okay.
This game is already tongue-in-cheek.
Yes, very much so.
but like in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it definitely takes itself seriously. At the same time, like this is not like Dark Souls 3 level of storytelling. Like I suppose it lends to a lack of peril. Like you're pretty sure that Unknown has got this, and you just get to see how she does it.
Indeed, Pass.
Man, this demonic bitch is switching hands with the crow fetters like I'm switching hands from left, right, like I'm holding a microphone and trying to make a move.
I am actually, good reason, the main reason why I'm actually moving around these arenas so often is specifically because I am actually trying to find the coats of arms. Because I still haven't actually found most of them at the time of this playthrough, and I would like to actually use the alternate weapon skins that they show off, despite the fact that they aren't honestly all that massive of cosmetic changes.
Damn, those health crystals really do like pretty much refill your whole health bar. But then once the crystal has been smashed, and you've absorbed its contents and its power, it ceases to be useful and it disappears.
Well, mostly because it disappears. But here we have a showcase of one of Malphas's smaller problems. Despite the fact that it effectively does double damage against every enemy because it's a boomerang, it still has problems with actually attempting to inflict stagger sting on shielded enemies. It's why my preferred weapon loadout actually is Malphas and Persephone, because with Malphas and Persephone, I can use Malphas in order to deal with the majority of fodder, whereas I can use Persephone to deal with heavier enemies, specifically behemoths and shielded bruisers.
I can't believe it took Paz like 4 minutes and an hour of gameplay to finally get the take the bull by the horns pun. Tisk, tisk, tisk.
Well, a majority of the demons that we're fighting here aren't actually horned, you know? I mean, the damns...
No, we're horned.
Yes, we're horned, certainly, but, you know, the demons that we're fighting aren't. Oh,
and we're
Greater
hard
Behemoth.
As fuck.
Hello, Greater Behemoth. The Greater Behemoth fight is, in fact, one of the more difficult enemies to deal with, specifically because she's got a lot of fucking AoE stuff going on. But... once you actually understand that her AoE stuff is mostly grounded, you can, you know, jump around her and bring her down relatively quickly.
So far I gather this game generally is rewarding, very rewarding for Doom players like yourself, Mr. Gerdat, who are well versed in the lessons of ABM and jump around.
Jump up, and get down. Yeah. God, I love this fucking track.
Boomerang. Coming right back at you.
Unfortunately, the Beelzebub maggots are one of the enemies that I actually have got some of the worst performances against, specifically because the acid fields that they deploy they linger for quite a significant amount of time, and I end up forgetting that whenever I get directly hit by them. So I don't actually go out of my way to get out of the acid fields like I'm supposed to.
So you mean that acid fields are a thing to watch out for when you're fighting the Beelzegrubs?
Yes, the Beelzegrubs.
Palette swaps. You look similar but different at the same time.
Actually, this game
opponent.
doesn't actually have any palette swaps in it, to be perfectly honest.
Well, it's just, I mean, okay, a palette swap, according to video game lexicon, is you take an enemy, it's the same shape, the same size, it does the same things, but it's colored differently.
And this game doesn't.
This game
doesn't have any of those.
Well, they put a nice hat on the behemoth and calls it a different
Greater
enemy.
Behemoth does things drastically differently than the lesser Behemoth.
Oh, good. So definitely not a palette swap.
Yeah.
It's an entirely different enemy with some similar characteristics.
Yes, it looks very similar, and it uses a lot of the same design space as the Lesser Behemoth, but it is primarily a range/support fighter, whereas the Lesser Behemoth is a melee frontline unit.
Your song must end here. You get your hands away from my headphone jack.
It is my headphone jack. I paid for it at Meyer. You will become slain. As Annotations Gerdat was attempting to mention before this boss fight started, I really dislike this specific boss fight. This aspect of the judge is significantly more difficult than pretty much any of the other aspects that we fought so far. Specifically because of this shit.
Just getting warmed up.
All right.
I appreciate that, Paz.
Now, to be perfectly honest, the difficulties that I run into for this fight are almost strictly my own fault. I contend with that a little bit because it is relatively difficult to focus both on the aspect and the environmental flame pillar that she's got floating around, especially when she starts doing the bullet flurry that she does here, because there's just so many goddamn projectiles on screen that I honestly don't know how I'm supposed to react with it, aside from maybe using the sword. And even then, if I'm in optimal range for Persephone, then I don't really have the opportunity to use the sword specifically as a defensive weapon for this fight.
Well, you're mentioning the sword and other melee tactics in order to deal damage to the aspect. I was going to say, I would consider using pistols for this fight because of the mind your environmental surroundings stipulation so far with the freaking jets of fire and the red colored projectiles coming at you. Like, keep your distance from the boss and keep an eye on what the hell is happening in the arena around you so you don't get taken down.
Yes. To be perfectly honest, one of the things that I've mentioned previously about the game is that the pistols are actually the best weapon in the game. It specifically for boss encounters. I prefer running Malphas and Persephone for everything, but to be perfectly honest, I get the best results with the pistols. Mostly because timing the pistol shots specifically for perfect damage is significantly easier than both the crossbow and Malphas. And
get the crystal.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. Hello, Lesser Behemoth. Melee the Behemoth down.
Dash to pieces. Look at me!
Also,
look at me!
Persephone's special does a lot of damage to bosses, so that and it's very easy to actually build her special up in comparison to. Well, to be perfectly honest, every weapon actually has a relatively easy special to build when it comes to boss fights. It's just that most of the rest of the specials aren't actually all that good against bosses. Like the crossbow's black hole does actually inflict stagger on bosses, but it doesn't actually do all that much damage. So it's not really something that I would recommend using. And then you've got Malphas's Reign of Murder of Crows, and the Murder of Crows is a very good defensive thing for the ads that show up, but it doesn't actually inflict all that much damage onto bosses, and you have to be effectively almost in melee range of the bosses in order for it to function. So I wouldn't recommend trying those specials on bosses, to be perfectly honest. I still really enjoy doing Malphas Persephone for the levels though. So.
Well, the score's not going to make it to the leaderboard.
Oh, it'll make it to the leaderboard. It's just going to be relatively low on it. No, one of the more interesting things about the leaderboard is that it doesn't actually have all that many people on it. So,
which means it's going to be harder for you to get a decent score.
Yeah.
With respect to your peers.
All right. In the next episode, we'll be continuing on to the next level of Metal Hellsinger. And we still got, over 8 million points. It's not 10 million, but it is over 8.